Sekeres and Price for Thursday, December 11th, 2025, a presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogers, and Hidden Switches conducting things in the producer's booth. And before we dig into the show today on S&P, get into the poll question, the top story, and all of that. Wow. Little PSA here from S&P. This ongoing BC storm that caused massive highway closures last night and flooding between the lower mainland and the interior. Of course, we're particularly concerned about the Fraser Valley after our experience 4 years ago from that atmospheric river of November 2021 that caused all that flooding. Now, today's a little bit drier, but there is an incredible amount of rain that is coming to our community in the forecast over the next 8 days. In fact, you just told me before we started here,
parts
evacuation
of Abbotsford are now
orders, parts of in Abbotsford. We encourage you. Stay safe, stay smart, understand and prepare for disruption to daily lives. Keep your people, pets, and property out of harm's way the best possible.
Yeah. Let's hope that the forecast is more lenient here in the days to come.
Well, let's just hope the forecast is wrong.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Some of this rain that they're calling for, I mean, some of the days looking forward on the calendar, Monday in particular, and what they're calling for, just, wow, incredible amount of rain. So stay safe out there and take care of those around you. Shout out to longtime audience member Lydia from Burnaby. She always stops by every December with some Christmas wishes. So thanks, Lydia. Sweet as always. Today's daily poll question. We're asking you, should the Rutherford Alvin regime be the management group making the Quinn Hughes trade? You can vote yes. You can vote no. Do so at the Sekeres and Price X and YouTube channels. Blake, I'm going to answer the question, then get out of your way. Entrust the biggest trade in franchise history for the guys who screwed it up and got you into this position in the first place. There is a very, very good case for no here, but the alternative is Francesco landing a better GM in short order in order to make this trade by the deadline when Quinn Hughes' value will still be at its highest. It's kind of a Sophie's choice. I voted no, but held my nose in doing so, worried about what the alternative might just be.
I know you hate it when I parse the poll question.
Oh, I hate it when you parse the poll question. You're such a parser. You're so persnickety.
I think changes need to happen, and I think the changes will happen. And I think it'll be Rutherford / question mark that are in charge of this team going forward.
So, look, we had a discussion about this before the show. I don't believe for a single second that there has been a big trade made by the Vancouver Canucks over the last 3.5, 4 years, if you want to count for Alvin's tenure. Of course, Rutherford just celebrated, might be the wrong word, 4-year anniversary of being hired by the Canucks. I don't dispute that Patrick may have done some of the smaller trades on his own, right? Carson Soucy, getting rid of Jason Dickinson, these sorts of things. But the bigger meal tickets, the JT Müller deal with the Rangers, the Marcus Pettersson deal with Pittsburgh, the Elias Lindholm trade with Calgary, the Zadorov trade with. I think Rutherford's hands, plural, were firmly on those wheels. So I don't draw too much of a distinction between them, and I think it would be patently unfair to fire the general manager while the president, who ultimately makes the decisions, skates on this one. But I could see Canucks Sports and Entertainment doing that because they understand how angry their customers are. They feel like they need to provide a scalp to those with pitchforks and torches, and that, yes, they move forward and say, oh, well, we've had to make changes. The general manager is out. But don't worry, Jim's bringing in another talented manager that he will mentor over however long he has left.
The truth of the matter is we don't know the onus in any of these deals, whose ideas, whose work, and the division of labor in them. But you hire somebody.
But even if we don't know, Blake, Jim Rutherford has to sign off.
Let me talk, please. He hires people to do the work, Matt. He hires a general manager to do general managing work in the NHL, which is the consummation, creation of player transactions. Does he put his signature on it? Yes. But that doesn't mean that it is his job to consummate and come up with the ideas of that trade. We entrust Mike Rogerson to do the audio work and to create the clips for that. Ultimately, do we wear it if something goes wrong? Yeah, we wear it. But we also hire somebody to do that job. He does it wonderfully, incidentally. Oh. But if he didn't, we would make changes there and you wouldn't cancel the show. Right? So you entrust somebody to do a job. Are you the last line, Jim Rutherford, for responsibility? Yeah, in a lot of ways you are. But you also owe yourself the option of changing the people that you hired to see if something different happens.
I'm uncomfortable with the analogy. Mike, you're safe, bro. Okay, don't you worry. It's Christmas. It's Christmas. We wouldn't do that to you.
January, you're okay too, Mike. It's not just because it's
Christmas. A 5-day no trade window.
But Blake, at the end of the day, while he may carry the title general manager, Patrick Allvin makes recommendations. Jim Rutherford makes decisions. Like, if you're going to draw the distinction and say, no, Allvin has done enough that you can, or has done enough damage that you can fire him and carry on with Jim, then if you extrapolate that, then you're letting Francesco off the hook too, right? Because ultimately he's the owner who has to sign off on decisions. So, look, again, I could see them moving on Allvin. I don't necessarily think they'd be pinning the tail on the correct donkey, though.
I mean, I just don't know many resumed, accomplished presidents in NHL history that have been let go after 4 full seasons in the league at the post. Like that is,
but that doesn't mean it's a mistake. Like you could argue hockey's an old boys club, and that owners have been too patient with some of their managers. Certainly Francesco was with Benning, even and
be honest, Matt. As such. If I asked you, and I can't believe you're forcing me to defend this regime. I'm just trying to find middle ground here. Mm-hmm. If I had asked you 8 months ago, away from Canucks lens entirely, Matt, what's a fair leash length for a manager walking into a job or a president walking into a job in the NHL? There's no way you would have said 4 years.
I would have said 5.
Yeah.
But you do get evidence over the 4 years. They do have agency, and these guys have done screwed it up. That, there's no doubt.
And there is the possibility, however small you might see it, it is a non-zero possibility that they show Canucks fans in the next 14 months a sign of direction that gives somebody confidence. It's a possibility. I'm not confident that happens, but there is that possibility.
Mm-hmm. Well, put it this way. I do sympathize with them because I understand the parameters of the job and what this owner will allow and what he won't allow. And don't get me wrong, it is a difficult trick to pull. They were given a tough assignment here. This was not basic math. This was closer to trigonometry. But if you're failing, you're failing. And they're failing.
Hey, last place is not
did
good,
you vote yes
look
or
good on the
you,
resume.
Did you vote yes or did you vote no?
I'm going to vote yes.
Now that all the parsing is done.
I'm gonna vote yes.
See how stern with me you got there, Mike?
I wish the question was Will, because Will's definitely Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going anywhere. I really don't. I don't think Jim Rutherford's going anywhere at somebody else's.
Well,
he could walk away, but I don't think he's being dismissed.
Mm-hmm. Which brings us to the Gary Mason column in the Globe and Mail yesterday, or published yesterday. And having worked there, I can tell you, so there is a BC edition to the Globe, and sometimes the BC content just is in the BC edition, and sometimes it goes out to a national audience. This one went out to a national audience, as Gary explained, as I tried to explain the gut-wrenching turn of events in Canucks land.
The dumpster fire is national now. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it was national before. It's just, more and more people across this country are hearing about what's going on with the Vancouver Canucks again. How about that? So there's this line from the Mason column, quote, "I believe Rutherford has the complete support of ownership on whatever moves he ends up making." And then Gary goes on to chronicle that, look, he's a 77-year-old come next year, early next year, February. Certainly doesn't fit the mold of a leader who is, beginning a tear-down rebuild, because that's likely going to take longer than what he has left in the post. And so Gary refers to it as, quote, a state of rebuild as opposed to a teardown. Now, I know for many years people saw Mason writing on the Canucks and considered him the Francesco Whisperer, that whatever Gary wrote somehow, some way had Aquilini fingerprints on it. Now, when Gary last wrote on the Canucks, and it wasn't that long ago, I think just a few weeks ago or a month or so ago, I can tell you for certain that one did not come with any kind of Francesco Aquilini. That's the word I'm looking for. That was not that. Whatever Gary wrote 3 or 4 weeks ago did not come from Aquilini. I'm less sure about this.
I'm less sure about this.
I'm less sure about this one.
The premise that he's been entrusted or has the power to make these deals sounds informed.
Yeah. And so are we looking at a scenario where Rutherford and Alvin do the dirty work of trading Hughes, and a new hockey boss is hired in the summer, someone who isn't stained by the failures of the Hughes JT EP40
Can you imagine
era,
that? Like,
and
no
isn't
way.
No, but Blake, when the trade comes down, it's going to be very unpopular.
Yeah.
So if you're the owner and you've just seen your hockey guys execute an unpopular trade, you sit there and look at it and go, oh, there are commercial consequences to this. How do I stem the bleeding? Well, I can move on my management team. Look, bright new day ahead, new man, new hope.
Matt, I don't think I agree that it has to be unpopular when this. It'll be unpopular with the 20% that are fair weather fans and the crest does no wrong.
It will be broadly unpopular because he's the best player in the history of the franchise.
Matt, we've asked people thousands of times on poll questions. Should the Canucks trade Quinn Hughes? The overwhelming answer is yes.
And Blake, the P1s who understand the NHL, the CBA, the salary cap, and all that, yes, I can see that. But they're not the majority group.
I think we are now at the majority where people recognize that as great as Quinn Hughes is, we're going to get to more evidence of this in a second.
I think you were seeing a lot of the smart, informed fans on social media who have resigned themselves to the die is cast here, and it's about maximizing a Quinn Hughes return, that they've crossed the psychological bridge, if you will, of losing the best player in franchise history. What I would be worried about is the silent Canucks fans, those who aren't quite as up on the salary cap, the CBA, and all the different things that go into a trade of this magnitude in the NHL. I mean, Blake, you constructed it the other day. If it's to the Detroit Red Wings for Marco Kasper, Simone Edvinsson, and a prospect and a draft pick, you think a casual fan is going to look at that and go, great trade for Quinn Hughes? They're going to go, no, this Kasper guy's got 3 goals this year. What the hell? This Edvinsson guy doesn't score. What are we doing here?
I think that they will understand that they have been put into a tough position by the player, and that is what the market bore.
But they haven't been put into a tough position by the player. They've been put in a tough position by themselves, their own hand, their own making.
If you want to rewind back, yes.
The player can't even talk extension with them until July. More on that later in the program. So, right now, Quinn Hughes, and we'll play the clip later, right? Like, Quinn's saying, well, I'm not even considering my future because I can't even sign until July. Alternatively, as we've talked about, should the management group that has screwed up over 4 years now execute the most consequential trade in franchise history? Many would say no. Because here's the thing, running back an unpopular management group responsible for an unpopular trade, it's got commercial consequences. We'll see where this goes. Pierre LeBrun yesterday on That's Hockey underlying that trading Hughes before March 6th, that's the NHL trade deadline this year, is a cleaner procedure. That means you don't involve Pat Brisson, his agent, and you don't have Hughes and Brisson in July picking their team. Now, we all understand that. Whether or not the Vancouver Canucks as a franchise, ownership, and the management group understands that. But whether the owner will green light that by the trade deadline is a unknown right now. And there's ample evidence that this organization, and this owner in particular, have kicked cans down road, been paralyzed to make the big decision, and have to try to delay it as much as possible. Fair enough, but as soon as July 1st rolls around, then Quinn Hughes, well, even before that, post-trade deadline, March 7th. As soon as March 7th rolls around, you are in a scenario where, as LeBrun says, Brisson and Hughes hold more cards. And they hold more cards because at that point, and especially after July 1st, any acquiring team is going to want to know, what is your interest level in re-signing here long term? And if the answer is, I don't, or I want to wait and see, then the offer for Quinn Hughes is not going to be as big as it would be, A, if you're getting Hughes before this deadline and have 2 postseasons with him, or B, if you are a team that Quinn is looking to sign long-term with. And for all we know, that may be one team and one team only, the New Jersey Devils. So a marketplace where the Devils are bidding against themselves.
Part of your critique, though, is still on the, I think, flawed assumption that this season mattered. The performance of the Canucks mattered.
You think that's flawed?
Yeah.
You think if things were running tickety-boo like 2 years ago, that a Hughes trade would be a topic for us?
I think they would need to be on the precipice of a cup. So you're asking this franchise to have built, within the span of 2.5 years, a cup contender. I think if he thought he was about to win a cup, he's not going to abandon that. But we've got empirical evidence of players having really good success and in these circumstances saying, I want out. And go no further than Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk, who both in Calgary saw their team enjoy the most success they had wearing that crest on their shirt. In their final years in Calgary, they went to the second round, deep into the second round. Both had great playoff seasons. And it's after a non-playoff year with the team seemingly headed in the right direction. Both said, get me out. Sometimes it just doesn't matter. Sometimes for the American star, they want out. They see grass greener on their side of the 48th and 49th, pardon me, and want to appease to their personal whims.
I agree with a lot of that. What I would say is, if this season was going along well, and by well, I don't even mean, leading the Pacific Division like they were at this time 2 years ago. Remember 2 years ago they were top team in the NHL for a couple of brief windows?
I think I just read yesterday that 2 years ago yesterday they were second in the Western Conference.
Yeah. And I think even later in the campaign they were top of the league. Yeah. So not even to that level. But I say if they were above the playoff bar, I don't think we'd be having Quinn Hughes trade discussions. I think we'd be looking at, okay, got to get that more center depth or whatever would be lacking with the team in that realm to beef up for a playoff run. Now, I think come July 1st, we would be talking about Quinn Hughes' future. Because at that point, we would be like, okay, is he signing? Oh, where's the extension on July 1st? If July 2nd rolls around, there's no extension. At that point, I think then we'd be having the discussion, okay, last year was great. Made the playoffs. Maybe it was a fun run. Maybe it wasn't, whatever. But can the organization go forward if Quinn Hughes refuses to sign that extension? Because if he wants to play out his final year, then it would behoove and be incumbent on the Canucks to make that deal.
Here's the counterintuitive.
But I think it's a totally different world.
Here's the counterintuitive, Matt.
Than where they're at now.
If they were, let's say, the first wildcard team right now, even in third place in the Pacific Division, that might be a worse place than where they are right now. Because
fair enough.
Because you're right. We would not be talking about Quinn Hughes trade talk. He probably is still thinking about leaving anyhow. And you're bypassing the better time to make the deal, as per your previous discussion, of being able to trade him with the dangling.
No, you're quite right.
Playoffs.
You're quite right.
You're neither here. Right. You're neither there.
Because your marketplace is wide open right now.
Yeah,
we talked about it yesterday. Other than a few teams, Calgary, Nashville, St. Louis, Buffalo, teams right at the bottom who know they're not going anywhere. The rest of the league, theoretically, is interested in Quinn Hughes.
Yep.
He's got no trade protection. He's even got a digestible salary at $7.9 million, particularly in an expanding cap era. So the conditions right now are extraordinary for a seller. I mean, think of it as an auction. You've got every big wallet in the room, and all of them are interested in the type of art that you've got on auction.
And I'm all ears to hear the people's and the experts' differing opinions on what a Quinn Hughes trade will give the Vancouver Canucks. But I keep going back to like a Tanner Jeannot trade in a flat cap a couple of years ago. Oh my God. Like if that's what Tanner Jeannot is getting,
I do think that was, first of all, I don't think Julian Brisebois makes that deal again in Tampa. Jeannot did not last all that long. Did they give up 5 picks for him?
Yeah.
Specific profile of player who was young, club, and contract control.
This is a specific profile of player.
No, I understand that. And a specific suitor, right? A team that looked at it and said, we've got cups. Did they have the 1 or did they have the 2 at that point? I forget. We've got cups. This is a unique breed of player, and we feel we need this guy to win a 3rd cup. Put it this way, I think the Tanner Jeannot trade was irregular. I more look at the Romanoff trade from the summer with the Montreal Canadiens and New York Islanders, where the Islanders gave Montreal gave the Islanders 2 picks in the middle of the first round and a serviceable winger for a second-pair defenseman in Romanoff.
Yeah, this is a supernova player, top 10 player on the planet.
So if Romanoff is worth that, my God, what's Quinn Hughes worth? Anyways, so there you go. We have disagreement on the poll question.
You likely do too.
I wouldn't be surprised. This is tearing people in a lot of directions. You see how stern he was with me today, Mike? Would you let me talk?
He's very fatherly.
And frankly, he gets every one of those cards to play. It's been 14 years. He very rarely gives me the stern, fatherly.
Sometimes
we got around.
Can't overplay it.
We got around to agreement.
Overplay
yeah,
it.
no, you're master's class in how to deal with children.
And Matt
from Papa Price. There's a lot of overlap there. Not gonna lie. Self-aware in that
Hopefully
regard.
not the diapers just yet.
He has sometimes called me by his son's name. Freudian slip, but really appropriate.
Yeah, when I get the disappointed voice on, it might come out.
First time you did that a number of years ago on air. You mean Matt? Oh yeah. Knowing looks were exchanged. Okay. Lineup. Top story brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Toilet Bowl. The worst team in the Western Conference and the National Hockey League, your Vancouver Canucks, take on the worst team in the Eastern Conference, the Buffalo Sabres. 55 years later, these expansion cousins have yet to lift the cup, and life has never been more miserable for them. 14 straight seasons without making the playoffs for Buffalo. That's an NHL record. And the Vancouver Canucks on the verge or under pressure to trade the best player who has ever played for them. If ever there was a loss that would generate a fan's jersey hitting the ice, I think it is tonight, right? I mentioned this at the beginning of this homestand last Thursday that, okay, I'm not sure Utah on a Friday night, maybe Minnesota on a Saturday night. Who knows about that Detroit game? But if they lose to Buffalo, God knows what the building, because for the most part, it has been more apathy than anger from the faithful at Rogers Arena. There's been boos. They were booed off the ice at the end of the game against Detroit after getting shut out, not even giving those who paid their ticket a moment, a goal to get out of their seats. But most people had just already left. Tonight, I wonder.
A 1-3 homestand, 3 losses in a row, and also the manner, Matt. Like if they don't score goals,
well, that's it. That's it. And
we're going to get into the goal scoring in a second.
And honestly, we say apathy and less anger, and I bet some of that is really intelligent hockey fans who are watching these games and going, "Holy shit, the effort level's there." Like I can't fault them for effort. They're just not that good, especially with who's out of the lineup. And that list may grow today.
Well, and the system may be letting them down too.
Well,
let's be honest.
No, for sure.
If you want to boo one guy, like
Adam Foote's system has not been installed cleanly or quickly with this group of players. And there is some question from those who know way more about the X's and O's than Blake or I about whether this group has the talent, skill, athletic ability to adopt and execute that system, that man system, that man-checking adaptive system that Foote has installed here, whether they can do so adeptly and adroitly, we'll see. Because so far the returns have not been good. We talked about this with Frank Corrado a couple of weeks ago. At some point, if you're the head coach, do you not have to just change gears and go, okay, they're just not good?
Yeah, you wonder what's taking so long.
Well, I mean, it may be too late at this stage. I mean, you may just, as Frank told us 2 weeks ago, you may just be better off running with this because you may have some problems in the transition back to that more zonal defensive
troubles that would manifest themselves in losses and not scoring goals.
Yeah, but there's us in this segment of Canucks fans are like, no, go ahead and lose. Let's get McKenna or one of these top. That's not how Adam Foote feels. So we'll see where that goes. Yeah. Brock Besser is a game day decision. Worried about appendicitis there, which of course would add to the injury woes. Just when the Canucks are seemingly getting healthier. Demko returns tonight. Another cruel cut on this front. Lucas Reichel skated in his spot this morning. Should Brock not be able to go? Here's how head coach Adam Foote explained it.
Yeah, he just woke up with discomfort. They're just making sure, send him to the doc, make sure it's not appendix. So, hopefully it's not that, and we'll have him tonight. So
game time decision.
Yeah, well, we should know in the next hour or two, I'm sure. But, yeah.
So it doesn't sound like a lot of discomfort. It sounds like it's playable, but they just don't want to make sure, because if you play with a ruptured appendix or one that's rupturine, that can be very dangerous.
Have you had your appendix out?
Nope.
Mike, have you had your appendix out?
No.
Okay.
I have all of my useless organs.
Yeah, ditto. You have tonsils?
Yep.
Yeah, ditto. They used to take tonsils out all the time.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. They're really
I was like one of the rare kids at school who didn't have my tonsils taken out.
Yeah, they stopped doing that now. They're tough wounds to they get secondary infections a lot.
Oh, okay.
So they don't do it anymore.
Adenoids?
Got them all. Wisdom teeth, the only thing that's been removed.
Mike, you got tonsils?
I'm fully intact.
I'm asking this because an appendix, that's like several weeks, right?
Yeah. For recovery, yeah. Yeah,
for a hockey player.
Peter Forsberg had his appendix out.
Yeah.
I want to say.
Demko, back from injury, first start since November 11th when he lasted just the one period versus the Winnipeg Jets, was replaced by Kevin Lankinen. So 1 month to the day, December 11th.
Yep.
With Thatcher's latest ailment, here's Coach Foote on his goalie.
So Demmer's back, which is good. Good look for us, and we're excited to have him.
Do you believe that a return of a big name like that to a lineup can give guys a boost? You hope that it does?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for sure. Yeah, it's him just coming back to practice, giving him a boost. You know, when you see guys off the injury list come back to practice and then now they're ready to suit up, should give everyone a boost for sure.
And we discussed it a little bit yesterday, but let's not forget, Thatcher Demko was extraordinary in October. Some of the analytics on Thatcher Demko painted him as the best goaltender in the NHL.
Goal saved
in
above
October.
expected,
Yeah.
Right? Still a winning record, as we
It's
pointed
still
out.
a winning record. It's still a save percentage above 900. It's a goals against of 280.
So help me, Matt. If they lose 1-0,
Oh,
or
God.
2-1,
Oh, my goodness.
Like,
Don't even get me
like if
started.
Demko's spectacular and they still lose because they can't score,
Now, he came back a little bit in the early days of November, but I still have him as a 1.3 goal saved above expected by one of the calculations. Juxtapose that against Lankinen, who's minus 9.5.
oh,
Yeah.
minus 9.5.
I know. That's just too much. And Blake, that's in 17 games. So every second game, more than every second game, he's given up a stinker. So there, look, this Canucks team was reasonably competitive with Thatcher Demko. Alas, it was this Canucks team that had Elias Pettersson in the lineup and just was a little more capable at center ice because of the domino effect there. Playing the bejesus out of Elias, especially in a matchup role, especially with defensive zone draws. It was, fishing wire and masking tape, but they were finding ways to win games and collect some points when Demko was healthy and playing well in October. Now, Pettersson not going to go tonight. Club hopes Sunday in New Jersey, where they will face Luke, not Jack Hughes. Jack continues to be out with that
Steakhouse injury.
cut. Drew O'Connor will once again play center here tonight against between the struggling Kiefer Sherwood and Evander Kane. More on Sherwood here in a second. And then there's Jake DeBrusk, who, and I'll give Jake a lot of credit because when he's struggling, he's there and available to the media to answer the tough questions. He hasn't scored in 9 games, and he talked about his struggles yesterday. Here's DeBrusk.
Yeah, I mean, I try to remember what it's like to see it go in, to be honest with you. But I think you just, even when things are going that way, I kind of keep a similar mindset. I mean, it's just a game of inches, honestly. And sometimes the hockey gods like you, and sometimes they don't. And at least for me, anyways. So I look at that with just the intention of just putting in just getting it in there, just doing that, and try to get in a roll. It's one of those things that you said. I had 6 and 8, I didn't even know that, and then all I know is the most recent, right? But we might need a 8 and 8 or whatever it is coming up because I got some ground to make up.
Putting pressure on himself there. By the way, hidden in there is a great example of why I always say it's nice for a player to score a goal in the preseason. He said it. I'm starting to forget what it feels like to score a goal. And I've always said that. I've never heard them say it in my parlance. Shooting and scoring, remembering what that's like, to see the mesh ripple behind the goaltender, that's what breeds the confidence. And when you don't remember what it feels like, it's hard to execute.
I'm not sure I will ever understand Jake DeBrusk's streakiness.
Yeah.
When he is on a heater, he looks all world, and then there are like months where you're like, where was DeBrusk?
My defense of that has always been, though, again, with this contract that he's on, at $5 million,
yeah,
you can't hold him to the same standard as a $10 million Brock Besser or $9 million Brock Besser. He's only a $5 million winger. So if he gets you 20 goals, I'm okay with the streakiness.
Yeah,
but he's due.
And if all of that wasn't enough, Foote hated practice yesterday.
Oh,
here's Coach.
We don't play after tonight until Sunday. And, we had a day off. We had a half day off where there was a lot of young guys out going over some details, some walkthroughs, like to call them. And then yesterday we just weren't as sharp as I would have liked. So we wanted to fine tune a couple more things. And today was way better with the zip. Plus the first drill really gets our goaltender into it as far as, going back for pucks and touches. So there's more than one reason why, but,
yeah, they had closer to a practice than morning skate this morning.
All hands on deck, pretty much.
Yeah, those who were healthy enough. So, anyways, and honestly, I'm with Foot on that one. Okay, we've had 2 days off. We lost the last game, and you're going to practice like that? I can remember talking to Pat Quinn about this early in my career, Blake, where Quinn was like, you know what? If we won 4 or 5 in a row, and we're on our second practice day and the guys aren't sharp, that's one that I just sit there and observe.
Park it.
Yeah, exactly. Park it. We've lost a bunch of games, or we're last place in the league, and we're going to go out and have a shitty practice after a loss before a game that we absolutely have to win? No. You're going to hear about that one, or there's going to be some sort of team punishment.
And half of you didn't show up for the optional in particular?
Ooh, yeah.
The darkest of timelines requires the darkest of lagers, doesn't it? Neighborhood Brewing has released Amigos Dark Lager. It's the darker side of good times, and so apropos these days. The dark lager brings a touch more attitude with rich malt depth, just the right amount of smoothness. Keep it easy drinking. Same spirit, new vibe. It's a beer for friends made by friends at Neighborhood Brewing, the Amigos Black Lager.
Nobody does the organic read like Blake Price. Okay, we mentioned DeBrusque struggles. Referenced Sherwood as well. It's time now for Crave the Stats, brought to you by Uber Eats, where today we put the cumulative struggles of all these non-goal scoring wingers under the microscope.
They all crave the goals.
They crave the goals. They crave, well, as Jake said, seeing the puck go in the net.
It is pretty astounding what's happening right now for this group, because they are the 3 top goal scorers on the team. The 3 most struggling to put the puck in the net. Sherwood, Besser, and DeBrusque lead this team. 1, 2, 3 in goals. Well, Sherwood, 0 in 10. Besser, 1 in 12. And DeBrusque, the 0 in 9. Matt, that would be tough to take if they were your third liners. And we've seen it. Like, JustCan'tScoreGoals.com, Jeff Patterson has, logged these sorts of struggles in the past. A guy when Garland was on the third line, guys, but Garland, he's got to chip in. He's only got 1 goal in the last 12 games. It's one thing to bring that up about your third liner. These are the goal scorers right now, and that might be unfair on Sherwood, but that's just where he is.
Well, it would be unfair for Sherwood on a loaded team, where he would be asked to play just a physical role and chip in. But
power play 1 now.
He has turned into one of the guys the Canucks rely on to score goals. And since we are being a little snippy with each other today, I have co-authorship of TheyJustCan'tScoreGoals.com with JPat.
Oh, mine's the rogue website.
JustCan'tScoreGoals.com. TheyJustCan'tScoreGoals.com.
Oh, I didn't know that you were on the title. Every time the Canucks are playing at home, you can get a buy one, get one 6-piece chicken McNuggets from McDonald's of Vancouver. No one says no to that. It's only on Uber Eats, enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app.
Quinn Hughes did a public event yesterday. He did a charity event, and good on Quinn. And we're going to bring up the photo here. This is from our buddy, longtime audience member. Gosh, I think Josh the Zamboni guy has been with us since day one, back when we started this program 14 years ago. Josh happens to work at the Langley Food Bank.
Oh, no kidding.
And he sent me a note yesterday, and he said, Matt, I just want to tell you, we met Quinn. What a super nice guy he was. He was great with everybody there, was laughing about playing New Jersey and his brother on the weekend. And he said, just thought I'd give you a rundown about the people last night or yesterday afternoon at the Langley Food Bank. and how Quinn was fantastic with all of them. So thank you to Josh for that. Thank you for your continued and ongoing support. We also, yesterday, I think, in the morning, you did a hit with CTV Vancouver's Kevin Chirac about all of this. And I know Kevin and the CTV News Vancouver crew was out at the Langley Food Bank yesterday. And look, as often is the case with news reporters, they asked the more pointed, focused question about
there's no relationships to preserve.
Well, the crossover there, right? Because, I mean, they're doing this for a broader, more casual audience, not the, people who are pinning down on every nook and cranny with the Vancouver Canucks. So Chirac asks him a pointed question about his future in Vancouver. And opportunity was there for Quinn, even for a moment, to allay some of the fears and concerns of Canucks fans. Alas, his answer leaned on the CBA. Here it is, courtesy of CTV News Vancouver.
CTV News caught up with Hughes at a charity event supporting the Langley Food Bank Wednesday. He made himself available for questions and addressed the elephant in the room. Are you intending on staying long term? Is there anything you'd like to say to fans at all?
I mean, right now I'm just focused on what I can control. We're in the middle of a season, and I can't even sign if I wanted to. I can't re-sign until July 1, so right now there's nothing I can do. So, I mean, for me, I'm just trying to, like I said, focus on what I can control and what I can do, and that's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I think that, he has had opportunities here to sort of tamp it down, bring the temperature down.
Yeah.
And he hasn't.
I mean, he could have said, I fully intend on having negotiations to that effect, but I can't do that right now. He didn't even say that.
Look, it's unfortunate, but I think what all this is amounting to, the picture is coming into focus. He's doing this by choice. He doesn't want to lead the Canucks or Canucks fans on.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then I completely understand. And he's right to give answers like this.
And you're right. Like
if there is a hope, you would have thought he would have expressed that a little more clearly when given recent opportunities.
And what you're saying is really good, because this is not to put blame on him.
No.
In some ways, it's almost
good on you,
the
son.
right and brave thing to do, not lead on the fans. But we are allowed to read his answers for what they are.
Correct.
So both can be true. I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah. I would rather get a harsh truth than a bald-faced lie.
Right.
Like this time last year, Elias and JT, we have no trouble with each other. Pure, unadulterated lies. 100% untrue.
And it's why
they just simply tried to snow you, the fan. Quinn's not doing that.
It's why there was a falling out with the late Johnny Gaudreau in Calgary, to bring him up again, because people there were pretty convinced that he was coming back, and then he didn't.
He had given every indication. And then, I think Columbus was a part of that too, right? Like, I'm sorry, you signed with Columbus?
Yeah. So, better to keep it as vague as it is and not be accused of lying than to mislead.
Well, I almost wonder whether, Quinn had a first-hand look at that last year, right, with Pettersson and Müller, and went, whoa.
That's right, yeah.
Look at how this fan base, look at how this fan base feels about JT Müller right now.
Yeah.
Do I want to be in that boat? Or do I want to be a guy who can one day come, quote-unquote, home to Vancouver, get applause, still have some of the hearts of the faithful who remember the times that we had and some of the best years of my career there and all of those things.
As Keenan on the chat right now on YouTube says, it's not against the CBA for him to say he wants to be a Canuck for life. No, it's not.
Exactly
right. But
exactly
he also doesn't want to lie. So that's the flip side of it.
Yeah. As one fan said yesterday on social media, all he had to say was, I want to stay here, and the trade speculation would have been over. But he didn't, and it's not. And it's why he should be traded for a haul, because when it comes down to it, July 1st will hit, and his camp will have all the leverage. I don't care what anyone says. I get it. I completely get it. Incidentally, you had mentioned earlier in the week that Jersey has fallen on some tough times. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They're just below the Eastern Conference playoff bar, but I think
they were leading the conference for a bit.
That's right.
Yeah.
But early part of the season, you thought they were getting better than that. Timo Meier has now left that team on a personal leave of absence to deal with a family health matter. We had mentioned that Jack Hughes is hurt, so they're going through some stuff this year in New Jersey. It might just be enough for Tom Fitzgerald to say, okay, I've got a good chance of getting him in a couple of summers, but holy cow, maybe we just get him now. We have the 2 cup runs, or 2 postseason runs with him before I have to worry, and we know he's going to extend because
commercially, can you imagine just like?
Well, that's the other thing, right? Like that is the 3rd team in the metropolitan area.
Yeah.
They do not, the New Jersey Devils do not get a lot of publicity or promotion.
3 crown jewel Olympian brothers all on the same team.
All American,
Like, are you kidding me?
Well, I don't think Luke is going to be an Olympian, but
you don't think so?
Well,
I think the politics.
Boy, it's a pretty good blue line.
It is. You're right.
It's a pretty good team top to bottom, that USA team, when you look at it on paper.
I can't imagine them bringing 2 brothers, not the 3rd, but.
Really?
Yeah.
You think Luke is of U.S. Olympic
7th
quality?
guy? Yeah, maybe. I'd have to go look at the mock-ups, but.
Holy cow. McAvoy, Werenski, Quinn. It's a good blue line. Incidentally, everybody, the announcement today at City Hall between Mayor Ken Sim, the city, and, of course, Vancouver Whitecaps FC, we are certainly aware of that. As a matter of fact, we are awaiting Axel Schuster, CEO, sporting director of Vancouver Whitecaps FC. He is going to join us live here as soon as he has occasion when the formalities are complete at City Hall. But as we talked about earlier in the week with Farhan Lalji, as had been reported by the province and Patrick Johnson last weekend, there is positive momentum for the Whitecaps to explore development of a stadium and an entertainment district on the site of Hastings Racecourse, and we do know that thoroughbred racing has come to an end on that site after 133 years. So we listened in that press conference before beginning the show, and Axel's going to join us here momentarily. Let's get to Vasily Podkolzin, who is the subject of a feature story today on sportsnet.ca from Mark Spector covering the Oilers in the Alberta capital. As he tweets, Vasily Podkolzin likely would have never become this player had he remained in Vancouver, but sometimes a change of scenery is all it takes. First of all, do you agree with the premise he never would have become this player?
No, I don't. I don't agree with that. I think there was an evolution to be had there with Vasily Podkolzin. He had a lot of tools to be a successful National Hockey League player. He was a bit tormented, I think, by his prospect status and his development in the early going. Heralded as maybe a number 1 overall pick for a time. At times frustrated with his own play because of the lack of production. Even at World Juniors, go look at his World Junior totals. Pretty modest, actually, for a player of that repute. And I think he was a victim of circumstance there, that he was heralded as a player that he just wasn't. Like, I think a half-point per game player in the NHL is probably the ceiling for Podkolzin in terms of production. But he can be a really serviceable and useful player while getting you 35, 40 points a season as well. I think people had a good handle on that here. I understand why some were maybe a little impatient, but there is no reason why Vasily Podkolzin needed to leave the Vancouver Canucks. I get why they did it, but I don't think they needed it to happen.
Of course, he was a Jim Benning era draft pick, right? And this was a new regime, and it's not like he had great success, and in fact took some backward steps here in Vancouver. He was sent to Edmonton for a 4th-round pick a year ago, August. Vancouver turned right around this June and returned that exact very pick to the Edmonton Oilers for Evander Kane. Kane has 15 points in 29 games, playing 17 and a half minutes per night. Podkolzin, 2 points shy of him, 13 in 30 games, playing 15, 16 a night. Kane is making $5.125 million this year. Podkolzin makes $1 million. He got a 3-year extension from the Oilers. That kicks in next season, paying him a shade under $3 million.
But Kane's got that snarl that. Oh wait, no, he doesn't. Like everything that Evander Kane was said to be bringing to the table here in Vancouver, have you seen it? He can play heavy, but so can Podkolzin.
Yeah. And really, Evander, many have drawn the comparison, us included, in terms of you chose Evander Kane over Pius Suter. You can also play that they chose Evander Kane over Vasily Podkolzin, game a year removed.
Yeah, from the financial thing, it's with Suter. From the positional and actual transaction standpoint of view, it's with Podkolzin.
Yeah, it's timeline as well.
Yeah.
With Suter, because remember they
they
had a miscomm, and that's why they weren't able to sign Pius Suter. Jim Rutherford mentioned that to Ian McIntyre last month. Time now for our menu. Let's get to our friends at Greta, where we are having a party. A holiday party, a Christmas party, the Canucks Army Holiday Watch Party. Canucks Army altogether, all one word. December 20th. Doors at 3 p.m., puck drops at 4. This is at Greta Bar on West Cordova. Now the Canucks, the Army, and David Quadrelli, as your master of ceremonies, they always have some fun games and some trivia for you at these watch parties. And everybody who shows up, and it's free to get in, will get you a game card so you can play at the super cool arcade that encircles Greta. You can book your table by texting 604-256-4022. That's 604-256-4022. Last told that they were having some issues with their website in terms of securing your spot. It apparently shows that the event is sold out. It is not sold out. So text 604-256-4022 if you'd like to attend. Again, this is December 20th, 3 p.m. onwards, with 333 buys you a 12-ounce draft of a particular brand of beer. House Shots going for 333 as well. And 333 off the... There's a theme here. On nachos, wings, and a Greta burger. Book your table. Greta Bar, YVR, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. As mentioned, we're going to talk to Axel Schuster here when he is available. Caps CEO and sporting director, after the big announcement that they made. Maybe we should just get them a little bit primed, Blake, for what was announced. And we previewed this earlier in the week. The information has been out there, but the City of Vancouver and Vancouver Whitecaps FC now have a memorandum of understanding that runs through 2026. It gives the Whitecaps an exclusive negotiating period to explore developing the Hastings site for a stadium and entertainment district. Now, the city will continue to own the land, and Mayor Sim today, in his formal announcement, said that they are looking to get to a long-term lease arrangement on a stadium at fair market value, and stressed that this will not cost taxpayers. He said this is not a done deal. This is a framework, and Axel stressed that as well, saying there are many more steps and it is going to take time. And no, the Whitecaps are not going to be sitting there commenting on the progress day by day on all of this. Mayor Sim said this has the ability to create some jobs, a little economic boost to that region, as well as create a new entertainment district for the city of Vancouver. Now, we did tell you earlier in the week, and there was a lot of reporting and speculation on this. There is a casino license that is attached to Hastings Racecourse. Now, we know thoroughbred racing is no more at Hastings Racecourse, but the casino will continue. That was in the Hastings release last Friday.
Although it was called an interim use. So it's unclear as to whether that would conclude into or would continue in the new iteration, but we'll see.
Yeah. So look, there very well may be some more steps that go on there with the casino license and the vestiges of Hastings Racecourse, what happens there to the assorted businesses. The other thing that Mayor Sim did is he lobbied BC Premier David Eby to get a short-term, well, my word's not his, but get a lease deal done at BC Place. And, of course, if you don't know, BC Place is operated by a Crown corporation called Pavco. So it's not really supposed to involve, it's supposed to be arm's length Crown corporations, but there is some overlap. And as you well know, the Whitecaps and MLS Commissioner Don Garber have put a hard press on Pavco and the province to deliver a lease for the Whitecaps that gets them more food and beverage revenue from their game days. They are absolutely bottom of the table on MLS when it comes, they claim, when it comes to food and beverage revenue.
And the give is interesting there, Matt, because, you know, that seems like a far more doable or reasonable ask when you are their long-term tenant. But now that you are an exiting tenant, you're leaving us and you want a better deal
so first
until
of all,
you leave.
They're not an exiting tenant yet because
true.
there is a ton of
Lots of work to do
that goes into getting this stadium done. And in fact, when we get Axel here, one of the things we're going to ask him is, do Greg Kerfoot and Jeff Mallett require a partner to execute this on the development side?
That was brought up a little bit, Matt, in the press conference. The financing is up to the Whitecaps, and I think that's abundantly clear.
Right.
Yeah.
And when Jeff Mallett joined us in August, he had said, because remember, it was a week ago, it was a year ago Saturday that the Whitecaps put out their release saying, hey, we are for sale, and they've secured an investment bank to go out and find a buyer. When we talked to minority owner Jeff Mallett in August, he said he and Kerfoot were open to 3 different kind of arrangements. Number 1, selling the whole thing, kit and caboodle, getting out of the way for the new person. Number 2, selling a majority stake, staying on as minority partners. And number 3, finding an investor who would become a equity holder but not the majority owner and continuing on in that arrangement. So Kerfoot and Mallett are open to different forms of investment. At last check, we'll ask Axel, though, because needless to say, if you're going to get into the business of developing that site, that is going to take a fair bit of capital on the front end. Right?
I'll read from the fact sheet officially released here. Financing the stadium would be funded by the Whitecaps FC and partners, brackets, if any, semicolon, any city financial contribution requires council approval.
Right.
So, and partners being the key, although they did bracket that off and say, if any. So,
well, yeah, I mean, and I get that they're covering bases. Did they say whether the full council has voted on this MOU?
It does not sound like there has been, he said, any proposal for the build requires city council approval. Okay. So
it doesn't sound like there's been a full vote of council, is what you're saying.
No. I mean, what would they even be voting on at this point? I think they need plans in front of them to vote on. No.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they would just be voting on giving the Whitecaps this window.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that
to give them the Whitecaps an exclusive negotiating period. Does that require a full
I don't
vote
think
of
that
council?
required it. No,
okay.
It doesn't sound like it.
All right, so this is the mayor striking. Then perhaps this is the mayor striking out on his own and hoping that the Whitecaps can deliver something to city council that gets broad approval.
Yep.
We'll see where it goes. Later in the program, more on Thomas Müller's future. It might not just be next year and peace out for the German superstar. There is a lot of interest in Whitecaps players across MLS, across this world. You win like the Whitecaps have done, you've got a lot of people looking in on your players and saying, boy, he'd look good in our midfield. He'd look good on our wing. We'll get you the latest there. Also, more moving and shaking in the world of baseball, including super agents, big free agents saying, Mariners, you interested in us? Needless to say, that's a change. Also talk some CFL later in the program with one of the big dominoes in CFL free agency dropping. And needless to say, the Lions have some busy offseason work to do with the number of free agents on their club, including beloved local kicker Sean White. So all of that is coming up on the program. Time now for our Bet 365 bets of the day, Blake. And I believe you had a Matthew Coronado goal yesterday.
Paid up pretty decently, too.
And yes, it did. So you've go ahead.
You won 2, though, but I will look to...
What did I have again?
You had a team's victory.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago's win.
Oh, right. Chicago beating the Rangers.
See, I'm
3-0 on the
Not
week.
only am I remembering mine now, I'm remembering yours.
I'm so proud of you.
Miracles happen, everybody.
We butted heads earlier, but look, now everything is lovey-dovey.
I'm looking at anytime goal scores, and we talked about the droughts. Folks, it ends tonight for Kiefer Sherwood. He may be the leading scorer for the Vancouver Canucks, but this drought has now reached the eyes of the people at Bet365. Kiefer Sherwood to score at any point tonight is plus 280. Plus 280 on an NHL team's leading scorer. I'll take that action. Kiefer ends the drought tonight.
I am looking at Thursday night football today. Now, the line was 4.5 yesterday. It's 5.5 today. I hate that when you miss it because I was going to go on Tampa Bay minus 4.5. So instead, I am going to go on their quarterback, Baker Mayfield. I think Mayfield has to have a big game here tonight. It's a very gettable opponent. This is a extremely important game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are 7-6. Carolina is 7-6. One of these teams is winning the division and going to the playoffs. Atlanta and New Orleans have already been eliminated in the NFC South. So I think the pill's going to be in the air, and needless to say, I think the yardage is going to rack up for Baker Mayfield. Over 250 passing yards pays at plus. I know he's nicked some. It's time to gut it out, Baker. Over 250 passing yards pays at plus 200. This segment, a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. Use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. We have Axel Schuster here, I believe. So here he is, the sporting director and CEO of Vancouver Whitecaps FC, fresh off the big announcement at City Hall today. Herr Schuster, good to see you again, my friend. How did today go as you saw it?
No, today went very well. I think it was a good day. And as I said, I hope it's a day that we will remember at some day in the future as a great starting point and as something that helped and maybe was the initial moment for keeping the club here and having a great setup for the club in future.
So, Axel, for the lay fan citizen out there who is hearing about all this for the first time, can you explain to them what was announced today and what has to happen now going forward?
No, and thank you for giving me the chance. And I think it's very important to say that with my words and not on the stage as an official statement. Look, 1 year ago in December, we announced that the club is for sale and that this ownership will give it all the time that is needed and that they will work on the solution for this club and the new ownership group in Vancouver in future. And of course, we went through a long year and learned our lessons and learned the questions that potential interested groups have. And so it was pretty clear that they want to know what could be a better setup, how could a better setup for the club look like, because as I also have said publicly, it doesn't work if you're a top second team, second best team on the pitch. You're a top 7, top 10 team in almost every other metrics, but in revenue you're bottom, last, or second from bottom. So that's the starting point of all of this. So we started to speak with stakeholders, with partners, with the city. And thought about what could be a solution, how could the solution looks like. And, everyone is always asking for the first step and everyone is always asking for some form of security in this process. And so it was very important that the city stepped up and did this first step and now gives us a secured time frame. That means, okay, we can now for a year try to work it out to now go to other partners and say, look, we have this. If you want to develop this with us, we can do it together. That's already guaranteed. But we need all those next steps to do. It's giving us an exclusive and protected time period because no one wants to get to the table. No one wants to make a commitment if he doesn't know if it will work at the end, and maybe somebody else steps in and a good option is going away. So we have that now. But it also means that everyone, again, has to be patient and to wait, because there are so many other next steps that we have to go. And this is not the new stadium. It is only one little step that hopefully is the important first step to get there.
Just to confirm before I turn you over to Blake here, so the Whitecaps have until December 31st, 2026 to present something to City Council with by way of stadium and entertainment district development. So it's the full calendar year 2026, Axel. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And what would that presentation be? Are we talking architect's drawing to that point, or the financial commitment that we are going to do that? How developed a proposal does that have to be on the desk of City Hall?
Yeah, it has to be, I would say, a plan for the piece of land. On one side for the city, and the city will sit with us together at the table. We will negotiate certain things also with the city. But what is important for us, and look, we are all living in the city, and I think everyone knows how real estate works and how expensive things are in the city. So from our side, we have also to make it financially viable. So the one thing I want to explain to people, what doesn't work if we now build a stadium and it costs whatever a stadium costs, and it will be high three-digit millions, and you have to pay off the stadium. The cost for that will be will eat the additional revenue that we can make in a new stadium. So to make that work, we need to develop more than a stadium. We need to develop also a plan around the stadium. And we have to develop other revenue sources or other usage for the land that we develop, so that it in total works. And then at the same time, in total works for the people in Vancouver and is an upgrade to the city.
I know the Tsleil-Waututh Nation owns the casino rights currently. Would that be into perpetuity? Do they have the right of first refusal there? Is there a world in which the Whitecaps could theoretically run a casino that it's attached?
I mean, we have very good relationships with all three tribes, and we had guests from all three at the game in Miami. And we are speaking with them almost every week. So if I say we want to speak with potential partners, we want to speak with potential stakeholders, we want to speak with interested groups, of course, these are one of the first groups we will connect with and speak with, and we already have also spoken. I don't exclude anything. I think we will only make that work if we find a lot of very good partnerships and a lot of other groups that will support to make that work. We alone will not be able to do this only. So it's a starting point, and we have also a few interested groups through the process of the sale, and we have to see, can we get that all together to one master plan that works at the end.
How big a dangling, you've been involved in these, I get these talks, I'm assuming. How big a dangling carrot now is this, that you've gotten to this stage? Is this now something you put in front of the people you've already spoken to and they go, okay, now we're cooking with gas here? Is this what they've been asking for, I guess?
Yeah, maybe the step is even a little bit smaller, but it is at least a step that gets people back or to the table to invest time. And time is often the most important thing that people have to invest here. And maybe even some dollars into some plannings to say, okay, let's see if we can make that work. What I said before, no one wants to do this, and no one wants to get all in this and spend planning dollars and time if this maybe goes away at the end and another group makes an offer and it's not doable at that place. So it's also important to say, okay, we have this time, we can sit down at the table with different groups and we can work that out, and we can also take the time that is needed to really calculate it through and think it through and to see who else could and will be needed.
Did I hear a little news there, Axel? Did I hear you say that there were people who interested, but when they were told that there was no green light on potentially developing a stadium, they walked away? Did you say get these people back to the table?
Yeah, I would say walked away is maybe too much, but they looked into it and said, look, we need a better setup for this club. No one can make that work in the long term if that are the metrics that I just presented before. And I would say this is one good avenue that we are looking into. But we also don't limit it only to this. We have to find a better setup, a better stadium solution, a better revenue solution for this club. And we will not stop also to look into other solutions. But this one is one that everyone knows about and one that the club has looked into already before, and one that we really want to think through. And there have been groups and there have been interested partners who said, look, if you can get something done, then we will look into this and we will be interested. If you cannot get something done, we will not be interested.
Okay, let me ask this, Axel, because the release from the city says the Whitecaps bracket, what's it, and any partners? And partners.
If any.
If any. So in terms of structure, could this work where you bring in a partner who helps on the development side but has no equity piece in the soccer club whatsoever, and that just continues on being Greg and Jeff with a partner that helps you develop the stadium and the site?
I think one thing we learned over this year is we shouldn't exclude any solution. So at the end, under the big line, it has to work. So said that, I think that our owners keep all doors for every solution open. The club continues to be on sale. And as I said before, it's also thinking about the long-term solution, and if it needs any help with the existing group, then I think this will not be the limiting factor, but the whole package has to make sense and the whole package has to work.
Okay, which brings me to my next question, Axel, and we had referred to it earlier in the show, but when we had Jeff Mallett on in August, he said, look, guys, we're open to arrangements where somebody comes and buys Greg and I completely out, and there's a new 100% owner of Whitecaps FC. We're open to a structure where we sell majority share and we stay on as minority partners, and we're also open to a structure where a new partner comes in a minority capacity and we go forward that way. Do Greg and Jeff require someone to come on in and help them with the front end development side of this?
Look, we need someone who wants to continue to be, and who not wants to continue, who wants to be the next owner of this club and wants to take over this club and wants to commit to have this club in the long term. I think that everything we're discussing and speaking about now are details, and as I said before, the details will probably not be the problem. It's more about the bigger picture. So we need a sustainable setup for the club that helps the club to get at least in a scenario where we top 7, top 10 to average revenues in this league. And that's not a sweet deal, and that's not donations. This is just average revenues for a top 7, top 5 club. And then we need somebody who wants to own this club and make it his thing in the long term. And all these other things are the details and little steps in between to get to the solution. And because, as I said, this ownership group is not running away and interested in solutions, that will be all on the table and discussable, but the major things haven't changed.
Quickly, just on the current stadium, when's your next chat with BC Place? Do we know when you're going to sit down at the table there and see if there's any gives?
No, and thank you for that, because this is, I would say, the priority now. Because even if everything else works out beautiful, we will not play in the new stadium at Hastings Park next year. So we need to get to a better solution for next year and probably for a couple more years. I can say there is another next scheduled meeting, and it is before the holidays. So
okay.
I'm not speaking in the public. We're not negotiating in the public, but we are speaking. And we have a next meeting scheduled, and that's probably a positive, because we continue to work on a solution.
Sooner rather than later, never a bad idea. Yeah.
Axel, I'm going to do you a favor and ask you a soccer question now.
Let's do it.
Unless you have more.
Let's do a couple soccers before we leave.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Bill, hey, I believe in German honesty, so I take Bild's word as gospel, my friend. I saw the report in Bild today that Thomas Müller, it might be even beyond 2026 in a Whitecaps FC kit. What can you tell us about your talks with Thomas and his representatives about maybe keeping the good times rolling here beyond next season and into 2027 and beyond?
I have sent them home to Germany and asked them to recharge, and we will have discussions about every single contract, including Thomas, soon at the beginning of next year, because the main thing what is happening now, we have a new calendar coming in 2027, and we will have a short season at the beginning of 27 that gets us to the summer, what is like half of a year season, and then we have a full season from summer to summer. And we have to work on that. Such a big change comes also with a lot of work on the contractual side, because none of our players has a contract until the middle of a year. So said that, naturally, it came up in my conversations with Thomas Kemp. But we will go to Europe. We will spend at least 3 weeks in the preseason in a camp in Europe to prepare us again for a very good season. And then we're very close to Thomas Kemp, and I'm also planning to go to Munich. And I think we will talk and we will share if there is something to share.
On the rest of the roster, I'm sure you're getting tires kicked on transfers for a bunch of players, but I wanted to ask you about the rumors around Andres Kubas, who has been so good. No one's got a wrong thing to say about him. But he's a quiet guy, and we don't really know what his intentions are. Is there a part of him that, all things being equal, if he can find a fair deal, he'd love to go closer to home? Is that what I'm sort of reading the tea leaves on?
I mean, first of all, he has 2 more years in Vancouver. So that's a pretty comfortable situation for us. And I think he really likes it in Vancouver. Any person in the world, including you two, would be open to listen if somebody offers you something absolutely crazy and way better. So I don't exclude or don't think that he will not pick up the phone. But I would say, from all my conversations, and we had these discussions before, and I know I had to react to some media reports from South America before, and I think it was a year ago, and I think it was even somebody of his family saying he should play somewhere else or go somewhere else. At the end of the day, it's Andres Kubas and Mike Kemp and Jesper and Quinn and myself speaking. And I can see happiness about this season. I can see happiness about with his family about living in Vancouver. And it would need something crazy happening. And I haven't heard about anything crazy. I have heard the normal rumors that we hear once in a year.
Yeah.
And so far, no one has reached out to us. No one has told us anything, neither his camp, neither a club. So we are focusing on those things that we have to focus on right now. We are focusing on the contracts that really expired. We are focusing on those guys who have only 1 year left, and we are focusing on new acquisitions that we need. And Andres so far has not been a topic that we had to discuss.
Last one for me. When do we know who is the goalkeeper for the Whitecaps next season?
Yes.
I mean, probably when we play in Costa Rica, you definitely know.
Yeah. Good answer.
Too easy.
Do you think Yohei's coming back, Axel? Do you think Yohei's coming back?
No, okay. I will give you the explanation, because I don't think that it is in any scenario preset that already decided that Isaac Bongma could maybe not be our number one. He had great performances for this club, has helped us to win titles. So I will always say I leave that to the coaches, and they will have to make a decision between all the goalkeepers that we have under contract. We will definitely have enough goalkeepers under contract, and I would say before we go in the holiday season, we will know more about what this group looks like.
That doesn't sound promising for Takaoka's return, Axel. It sounds like you're preparing to move on without him.
No, honestly, that wasn't the impression that I wanted to give. Really not.
Okay, well, I'm glad I asked you to clarify. Just because he's, for those who don't know, he's their only MLS free agent. Obviously, had a sensational season, all-star season. Although I do understand there's a number of other goaltenders that are available on the MLS market right now.
Yeah, you know, I don't blame any player in any camp to look into what the market has for them. So, and I can tell everyone of all our Whitecaps supporters, we're talking with his camp, and I had just had a conversation with him yesterday, and I would say the door is as wide open and the conversations are going on as it is for maybe another solution. It's not a trend, or I didn't want to give any direction here and say be prepared that he's not here. But as it is sometimes in this business, it's maybe a 50-50, and it's about a few little things where it can fall to our side. And I think this can still really happen, and I think this can happen quickly. But maybe not. And then we are prepared for this because we knew already since many months about this, and then we will go with a different solution.
Excellent. Axel, thank you very much for your time, for bringing some clarity to this file. I suspect we won't speak to you before Christmas, so have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, safe travels to Germany. Look forward to talking to you, and look forward to another fantastic season of Whitecap soccer in 2026. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Axel.
No, thank you. You too. It was a really amazing year, but it was also always great to work with you. So thank you for reporting about us and having us on your show.
Yeah, we do Whitecaps talk each and every day on this show, and are proud to do so. Appreciate that,
Thanks,
Axel. That's Axel Schuster, the CEO, sporting director of Vancouver Whitecaps FC. Blake, let's just unpack and some of the details and some of the things we've learned here from Axel over the last 20 minutes. So the Whitecaps are now charged with bringing a plan for the land, and needless to say, that plan is going to be a little broader than simply a soccer stadium on the Hastings site that is formerly Hastings Racecourse. As we explained a couple of days ago, everybody thinks that is city land, and the PNE is absolutely city land. But the PNE is not the entirety of Hastings Park, and the actual land that Hastings Racecourse sits on is held by the province and city in trust. And so you do have two different levels of government as stakeholder here. Axel characterized today's announcement, this memorandum of understanding, which gives the Whitecaps this right to devise a plan to develop the land until December 31st, 2026. So they have 54 weeks here, Blake, to get this thing together. Axel said that this is a small step that gets people to invest. And he said, look, walked away is too strong a word, but we know there have been some significant people, some big wallets, who have looked at the Whitecaps. We're even here for the game against LAFC. In fact, Blake, I think you bumped elbows with a couple of them. But it very much sounds like they looked at all this and went, okay, well, when you've got the possibility for a new stadium with better revenue streams, then we're interested. As great as BC Place looked with 54,000 people in there for a thrilling victory against LAFC, anybody who's looking at the business case for Vancouver for buying this MLS team, needless to say, had to do a whole lot better than what this lease arrangement with BC Place was providing to the club.
Here's the thing: the brass tacks of it, under the current economic setup for the Whitecaps at BC Place, 50,000 at BC Place makes them X. There is a world in which 24,000 at the new stadium makes them 2x.
Right. Particularly if there's food and bev and parking revenues attached to it. That's the one thing that anyone who gets involved in sports business comes to realize pretty quickly. The team itself is not actually where the profits are. It's the stadium where the profits are.
And the accoutrement, yes.
Well, that's it. The NFL might be different. They get huge checks. But, other sports that are a little more reliant on the spectator, gate-driven leagues, if you will. As for the sale of the club, Axel says, look, they still need someone to come into town and invest in the club. And again, Jeff Mallett gave us 3 different possibilities there, whether that's an owner who comes in and buys 100% of the club and Greg and Jeff say thanks very much and move over, whether that's someone who comes in and buys a majority stake of the club and Jeff and Greg Kerfoot stay on as minority partners, or whether that's a minority partner for Greg and Jeff. But as we have talked about here since the Hastings site became a possibility months ago, you are going to need some very heavy and significant investment on the front end here. And Axel did tell us what we had long suspected, that you can't just build a stadium and fix the financial situation of the club, that the cost of building that stadium would be so large. And he said 3-digit 100 million. So you're into the hundreds of millions,
600 to
900 million dollars. I don't care how many beers or hot dogs you sell. It would take an eternity to recoup that sort of investment. And so to be able to finance that stadium, they're looking at developing the rest of the site, which, needless to say, you're talking about very, very big dollars for that. Very big dollars on the front end to get that going. And, of course, very, very big dollars on the back end when you have all that ready to go. That
commercial,
would assist,
maybe even residential space, too.
That would assist in getting that.
What I also heard in the ownership scenarios of a standpoint, by the way, was that even if he seemed to intimate that this owner would eventually need to become the majority owner, that maybe in the short term, that maybe in the short term that person could be minority, but that it would be planned that there would be an escalation in that interest, perhaps.
Right. Yes. Or that person's in, and then you're still looking for someone to come in to buy out
the rest of them eventually.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, so there you go.
Yeah. Interesting. The ideas in my mind, the pictures in my mind are replete. It could be very cool there.
This could be a gigantic day for Vancouver sports, because as we heard earlier in the week, that the BC Lions from Forhonology, the BC Lions are interested in joining up on this. In fact, we should have asked Axel. There's no omissions.
Brand new outdoor concert facility is just about to open at the PNE. Mm-hmm. The Golden Eyes are practicing and playing there in 2 different facilities. Like Hastings Park, PNE could be vibrant and alive again, Matt, after sitting rather dormant.
Yep.
And that's a pretty exciting prospect.
Yep. Could be a huge day, or don't want to think about it, but this could be the day where we say, okay, you remember that day in December 2025 where they got the approval to develop the site, and then alas.
Hopefully this is not Michael Heisley singing the national anthem. Hopefully that's not what this is.
That's a great pull from you. Good reference. Okay, so there's Axel Schuster of Vancouver Whitecaps FC. David Pagnotta coming up of the Fourth Period DFO Insider on all the things buzzing around the Vancouver Canucks. Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center.
This segment brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. The 2026s are now available on a smashing deal. I'll get to that in a second. Right now, you need to know that you need to go look at the Toyota Prius. Those on visual mediums can see it already. It's a different looking car. This is a fabulous looking car, inside and out, and the drive. This is not a mom and pop car that just ambles to the errands.
Peppy.
You can drive this car. Like, drive it. Go check it out. Take it for a test drive. See all that it has to offer. And then be blown away by the fact that you can get one, an SE, from 109 weekly at 3.99% APR for 64 months. That's with $3,300 down. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today.
As we welcome in the editor-in-chief of the Fourth Period, the host of the DFO Insider here on the Nation Network, Wednesdays with our buddy Irf Gafar, it is Mr. David Pagnotta back here with Sekeres and Price. How you doing?
Not too bad, boys. Not too bad. How's everything out west?
Pretty quiet. We're just wondering about if there's any interest in Pierre Olivier Joseph. We're just nibbling around the edges, really.
Exactly. Filling in the margins here, David. Needless to say, the Canucks are keeping you guys in the insider business busy these days. We're going to go down a checklist of a few teams here that have reportedly shown interest in Quinn Hughes. David, start me off with the Carolina Hurricanes. What are you hearing there?
Yeah, this is a team that is never afraid to get involved in the big market, in the big boys. We've seen this in the past. Gensel, it started with Gensel, then they went to Rantanen last season. If there's a big fish, they want to be part of it. They were able to make a deal in the offseason for Müller out of New York, took advantage of their cap situation and the contract demands from him. They're never afraid to be part of this discussion. And my understanding is they've had a loose talk, like a lot of other teams have, with respect to Quinn Hughes. If this gets to a point of we're at a serious level of trade discussions involving Quinn, then I expect the Hurricanes to throw their hat in the ring fully and be involved in this. My curiosity leads me to believe that would they consider, or leads me to question, if a guy like Stankoven might be available, if they look at Nikishin, what type of package might be available. Those would line up with the type of players the Canucks would certainly be looking for. Whether the Hurricanes want to go in that direction, way too early to tell. But they're another team that you add to the New Jerseys and the Red Wings and the Flyers that I expect to be poking around once this gets to a serious state, which I still maintain is not there yet.
Is it safe to assume that the Canucks stand to, again, until it's executed, but just as a theory, the Canucks stand to do a lot better in today's cap climate than, say, if all this had gone down a couple of years ago with a flat cap? Like, if there was a time for the Canucks to hit a home run, shouldn't it be now, where nobody is really struggling for cap space and dollar in, dollar out only applies to a few?
It should. It certainly creates more in-season options than it would have in the past, without question. A lot of teams have a lot more cap flexibility. A lot of teams have done that specifically for potential adds later on in the season. And now with the idea and the notion after the Board of Governors meetings that we're likely to stay at $104 million next season, maybe, but more likely that we are going to stay, it gives teams just more confidence in their projections in terms of what they want to do beyond this season. And if it applies to a player with term, that's going to factor in. So it does give, in this scenario, a few more options for in-season. But if you're the Vancouver Canucks and this is the direction you're actually going in, you're going to try to maximize your return regardless. So whether it's Carolina or one of the other teams was part of this, obviously the job would be to maximize your return. But now, as you said, it does indeed give them more options for in-season. But I still want to pump the brakes on things to a certain level because, again, I'm not convinced right now that this is something that's going to happen. It's not going to prevent teams from continuing to poke. And maybe things change in the second half of the season, but that's just where my mindset is right now, talking to other teams.
And before we get to other potentials, which is there's a push and a pull here of you get Quinn Hughes for 2 playoff runs, pro. Con, you don't know if you can re-sign him because you're not allowed to until July 1st. So, which of those is the bigger force for a team right now? You're going to be way more likely to offload Sun, Moon, and Stars if you think you can keep him long term, but you lose the playoff run. Which is the bigger force right now?
See, this is what on the surface. We're focused on this year and next. If we can win this year and next, and this guy pushes us over, let's do it. Juice is worth the squeeze. But talking to a lot of people around the league, they still believe that Quinn Hughes and his camp have a lot of say in this, even without no trade protection, even with, yes, Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin can do what they want because he doesn't have no trade protection. The idea is if we're acquiring him, it means we've got a good chance at extending him. On the surface, it's cup run now, cup run next season, and we'll worry about the rest of it in July and hope to sign him. That hope, I feel it's got to be a little more concrete, not guaranteed, but you've got to have a certain level of confidence that if you're spending a significant amount on acquiring Quinn Hughes, that you've got a strong level of confidence that he's going to stick around beyond next season.
Educated hope. Yes.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Right.
New shooters this week have emerged. Talk to me about the Washington Capitals, David.
Yeah, this is another team that we started to hear over the weekend and in the last couple of days. It's escalated, that they're another team in the mix. And they've got, obviously Jacob Chikrin's doing great things on the blue line for them right now. John Carlson's on an expiring deal, although I anticipate that to extend. They're going to get to that at some point. And I wrote about it this week. It sounds like from his side of things, when they come to me, we'll figure it out. Not going to be a tough negotiation. Hasn't happened yet, but that'll be later on in the season. But with the tide shifting eventually shifting in DC with Ovechkin's situation and still, I think it's going to prolong a little bit, but looking long-term, this is a team that wants to add and wants to remain competitive. And at the same time, understanding that most of the teams that we've been hearing about are in the same division. So that's also a factor, I would imagine, in this to say, all right, we got to enter the mix in this capacity. We don't want a player of this caliber joining New Jersey or the Rangers or the Hurricanes or whomever or Pittsburgh or whatever. They've got to be at least part of the discussion as well. So, and this is also the idea from this club that, again, things are shifting a little bit. And another era will end soon at some point in the next, few years. How do we remain competitive? How do we add that star power to our group for the foreseeable future?
I have 2 follow-ups here. One on the Capitals, one on the broader division. Would the theory in Washington be this might be Ovechkin's last run? Let's do everything in our power to try and see if we can build a cup team for OV this year.
I think it's part of it. I think they view themselves as a legit contender, and I think they're going to look to add to their roster in various capacities. But it's a combination of that and some of these younger guys taking over, whether it's Poitras, whether it's Ryan Leonard, who's out a few weeks now. You're seeing some of the younger guys coming in that are the next regime long term for this group. So to combo the veteran presence that they've got there with some of these younger guys, and if you can add to it, I think the core would like to be in that mid to late 20s range, which is where certainly Quinn fits into that. It gives them an opportunity to remain competitive now and over the next several seasons. So whether it's chasing a cup this season or next, and Ovi sticks around even longer, maybe he tries to chase 1,000 goals, you want to still give him the opportunity to compete. And that's the mindset there in DC. I talked to some of their guys when I was in LA last week, and it just seems like that's the mindset there, to keep this window open, not to pry it open forcefully, but they feel that with what they've got and where they're looking at, they can be in a position to keep that window open organically for a pretty long period of time.
And then my second follow-up, you mentioned the division, David, and this would apply to teams in the Devils division. So the the Metropolitan. So Capitals, Hurricanes, we've talked about them. We're going to talk about the Penguins. Flyers are interested. Rangers, we've even heard Columbus. Would any of these teams be demurred by the fact is Quinn really going to extend here and commit to a life of playing his brothers as often as he would play his brothers against the New Jersey Devils? Do you think that has any bearing on the interest offer level, concern or confidence level of a acquiring team trying to re-sign him? That, is he really going to commit to a life of going head to toe with his brothers as often, maybe even in a playoff series?
Atlantic Division only.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm sure that's part of the discussion. I think we haven't heard definitively from Quinn that that's his priority, that he wants to play with his brothers in New Jersey. He's mentioned that, it'd be great. Obviously, I'd love to in any scenario because it's my brothers. But I don't think anybody's been given any indication that that is, from his perspective, the be-all, end-all. If I'm not playing on New Jersey, I'm not playing anywhere else. I haven't gotten that sense at all. Little internal competition never hurt. If he's in New York, for example, or Philly, it's pretty close to Jersey. They can still hang out on off days, be a little bit closer to each other. I'm sure that's a benefit, but I don't want to say that idea and that theory is blown out of proportion. I don't think it's a definitive prerequisite from that side of things. Would I like to play with my family? Would I like to work with my family? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But in this case, if I had a brother to play with and at a pro level, of course I'd love that. I think anybody would. But again, I don't think that's a definitive prerequisite. It has to be stamped or carved in stone that it's Jersey or nothing. I think, and that's why we've been hearing teams so much in this division that have expressed interest in him.
Talk to me. Where's the Pittsburgh interest coming from? How serious is it? Well,
Pittsburgh is going through. Obviously, we know they're supposed to be going through a rebuild, and just with how well they've been playing, it's. I'm not saying shifted things. It's just altered the mindset to a certain extent. But as they will eventually go through this quasi rebuild, it's looking at players that are in their mid-20s that can be part of a new core moving forward. And Quinn obviously fits that mold. I can't see a reason why the Penguins wouldn't inquire. To the level of interest, I'm not sure. And I haven't looked too deeply as to what type of potential package, what centerpieces might be available to go back the other way. Because I don't think it's there yet. But, there is some level of confidence that they have some pieces that would engage the Canucks into at least entertaining the idea. But beyond that, I don't think it's gotten too far.
Yeah, the complication with Pittsburgh, of course, is that Quinn gets there and he looks around and he sees a 38-year-old Sid, a 39-year-old Malkin, a 33-yerold Rust, a 32-year-old Raquel, on and on it goes, the 35-year-old, or 38-year-old Letang. Yeah. And he goes, oh, okay, is this even a better situation than Vancouver going forward because all these great players are towards the end?
I wanted to ask you about, and we can broaden it a little bit, the Columbus Blue Jackets, they've been loosely tied as maybe a dark horse to get into this. But I'm also wondering, now the Kiefer Sherwood trade stuff has really died down. No surprise because the guy can't find the back of the net at all, stuck on 12 goals on the season. But I'm also looking at a local guy for the Vancouver market in Kent Johnson, who has 1 point in 14 games, 23 years of age, still very young. If you are responsible in the Columbus Blue Jackets front office, you let that percolate and you're patient. But maybe they're not. Tell me where Columbus's head is at right now.
They to me definitely have the pieces that would make something work. You look at the roster, you look at what they've got in the pipeline, and you look at the young players on this team. Without question, I think they have the assets that they can package up that would be enticing enough and attractive enough for the Canucks to seriously consider that possibility. from their side of things, well, first of all, I don't think it's gotten to that level because I think still that's across the board. But I think from Columbus's side of it, this is an opportunity to add another star, another superstar to their lineup and to that back end. To have Werenski and Hughes on that back end, you're looking pretty good. With the guys up front that are taking those next steps, Fantilli and so on, it puts them in certainly good standing in wanting to compete in that division and in the Eastern Conference. And with, they're going through they will be going through a $400 million renovation to the building. You want to stay relevant, you want to sell tickets, and you want to give fans a reason to show up, not just because you've cleaned the rink up. So I think the pieces are there. I think it's just a matter of a willingness from Don Waddell to go down this road. To add a player of that caliber, I don't think there's going to be anything from ownership that stands in the way on Columbus's side. But I don't think that's too far down the line yet. But looking at it and talking to people around the league, this is a team that they're all wondering if the Columbus Blue Jackets get the idea or have a level of confidence that they can keep Quinn beyond his contract, then I would think they would be big players in this because they've got the pieces and the willingness to do it.
Second week in a row, David, you've told us pump the brakes a little bit. You don't believe anything is on the verge, imminent here with a Canucks move on Quinn Hughes. But that also extends to some of their other pieces. Now, we mentioned Evander Kane last week. If there's interest, it'll be closer to the deadline. There may even be a matter that's subduing interest in Evander Kane. But with regards to Kiefer Sherwood and Connor Garland, still just exploratory on the part of the Canucks?
That's what I'm being told, yes, as early as this morning. So from people that would know, obviously. This is something that, like, the price tag appear to have been set for a lot of their pieces that they're willing to move immediately. They're pending UFAs. Obviously, Sherwood leads it. O'Connor has another year left on his contract with some no trade protection. He's a player that I believe they're willing to move. Garland as well, but it's going to take convincing, and his no trade doesn't kick in until July. But everything I've been told as of going into this morning was status quo, nothing imminent, still talking, but still part of the exploratory stage. And I think on Sherwood, there has been a little bit of hesitancy because he has been in a bit of a cold streak goal-wise. He's still hitting, he's still doing his job, and he's still got that $1.5 million cap hit. That's not going away for the rest of this year. So the other intangibles of his game are there. It's just a finish. And I don't think, everyone's realistic. I don't think anybody anticipated Kiefer Sherwood being capable of keeping that up pace-wise and being a 40-plus goal scorer. But if this is a guy who's in the 25 range for a full season, 25, 27 goals, maybe this season he cracks 30 or gets close to it and is still top 5, top 3 in hits, that's a very, very valuable asset. But right now, teams are just wondering, all right, maybe we can try to drive the price down a little bit because it hasn't changed. It's first round pick plus or equivalent plus for Sherwood. Because he's in a bit of a slump, maybe we can pounce if we offer a little bit less or something to that extent. And obviously the Canucks are holding their ground. So that's kind of what the status is on his front and pretty much on everybody else for the time being.
We're also having the discussion here in Vancouver about whether Rutherford and Alvin deserve to make this deal after this has all come crumbling down on their watch. But you tell me, do you believe there's any chance that this is the next GM or the next management group that has to deal with the Quinn Hughes trade?
Yeah, I mean, and I know that the word is that, Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin have full backing of ownership to do whatever they need to do now. Typically, if that's the case, then you're not considering making a change at the top of the helm anytime soon. That's usually the indicator across sports that if you're allowing your president and GM to do this, that they're going to be able to, they're not going to be leaving in the summer because we finished last or second last or whatever, even with that trade. Again, reiterating, I still don't think anything is close on that front, on the Quinn Hughes front. But if you're giving that responsibility to them, I don't see it. Logically, I don't see a change happening after the fact. Now we're hearing, you're hearing names, you're hearing others, and Brendan Shanahan is looking for a job. He's with the NHL right now. He's actively lobbying. The league is going to back him. The big reason why he got to Toronto was because of the influence that the league had in pumping his tires. And I think that will continue. And I anticipate him being in the NHL outside of the league office with a team maybe as early as next season. But I don't get that sense right now. And a lot of it has to deal with that idea that, they're giving Rutherford and Alvin that ability to shake things up and rejig this whole thing.
Truth be told, too, David, 4 years is not that long for a management group, is it?
No.
Like usually 5 is the bare minimum.
It's not that long if you're building or you're working towards something. When you're last place in the NHL,
I hear
4 years in,
but it's also
on
Jim
your
Rutherford, an
anniversary date.
acclaimed elder statesman of the hockey man world. So a rookie GM, sure, you could fire him after 4 years. 4 years for a veteran like that would seem rash, wouldn't it?
I think so. A guy of his pedigree and his experience, and he's still holding the cards. Any big moves that are being made, he's handling. You've got to give him a bit of a run here. And you look at some of these, and yes, the first couple of years look great, and then everything fell apart last year, and that's carried into this season. But I still believe that they're going to give them a shot to kind of clean up some of the mess. And the other thing too, whether it's them or somebody else, if you're moving Quinn Hughes and you're bringing in all these younger assets, even if they're NHL level or just starting to get there, if you're going through a rebuild, you got 7 guys with no movement clauses, another 2 guys with partial no trades, and you got more no movement clauses kicking in next summer. I don't know how you can properly go through a rebuild unless you somehow convince all of them to say, yeah, you can move me. I don't care anymore. I just don't see that being realistic. So even with Hughes, even if you're making that move and you're bringing in, certain pieces, I just don't see a full teardown. It doesn't compute to me. You give them an opportunity to clean up some other pieces and to fill the cupboard and to make those adjustments to this roster by moving out your guys on short-term deals or expiring contracts. You fill that and you try to see if those pieces that are being brought in now, along with whatever future assets through some of these deals, if these are going to start propelling you forward, and you're going to be in a better position by making additional proper moves in the offseason. This is a combo situation. Obviously, nobody expected the Canucks to be last right now. But this is what's happening. It's still sinking into that room. It's frustrating them. Adam Foote talked about it yesterday, about how much this noise is starting to get to some of these guys, because that's normal. They're human. It's going to affect you. How do you get out of this? It's tough. Mentally, it's tough. And that's another factor in all of this.
Yeah, difficult days here for the Vancouver Canucks on yesterday being the 4-year anniversary of Rutherford's hiring. Wow. David, awesome stuff as always. Thank you, my friend. You have a great week. Give our best to Irf on Wednesday. We'll catch up next Thursday.
Can't wait, boys. See ya.
Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center and the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Leach. You're louder when you're rested. Book your staycation here at the Wall, just minutes from the arena and stadium. Unlock that S&P rate. Call 604-331-1000. Tell them we sent you. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. Well, the massive German outlet Bild is reporting that Vancouver Whitecaps FC are looking to extend the great Thomas Müller beyond just next season. The Caps picked up the option on Müller's contract for 2026. It's a significant pay raise and makes him a designated player. Remember, he was only playing for $700,000 this year after coming over from Bayern Munich. Now, Blake asked him about this when we had him on the show a few weeks ago, and we're going to play that clip in a moment. I saw our buddy Jay Janauer of Global TV tweeted something cryptic earlier this week about he's hearing Müller could be here for a longer period of time. And I knew something was up when I texted Jay, and I was like, do you mean picking up the option, or do you mean beyond 2026? And our buddy Manuel Veth of Transfer Market, our Thomas Müller correspondent, as I have been calling him, also a Bavarian from Munich, says he has heard the same thing. So this was from a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, right when we had Thomas Müller on the program.
Read between the grins.
Yeah, exactly.
In 2017 or 2027, you're not under contract, but it's just a little wee 14-game season. Could you imagine sticking around for just a little wee 14-game season?
I can imagine a lot.
Next
he played
season's
coy with us.
Next season's going to be very important, right? Like, he has to see how his health holds up.
Right, of course.
36-year-old. Now, again, for context, Messi's 38. He's younger than Messi is right now. But, providing that he's got a fairly healthy season, again, one last little...
And just explain it to them why it's a 14-game season.
As they convert to the winter schedule, they need to get back online, so it's going to be basically a half-season sprint edition of Major League Soccer in order for them to not have a 7-month break between seasons as they convert to a winter schedule.
MLS insider Tom Bogert, and I met Tom.
Did you?
In Fort Lauderdale.
Nice.
Yeah. Awesome guy. He's reporting that a number of teams are interested in Matias Laborda, and particularly with his ability to play anywhere on that back line. We saw Matty play left back. We saw him play center back. Very valuable piece. Now, look, if the Caps trade him, you need two players, basically, because I think they want to improve center back or left back, even with Laborda coming back. So we'll see where that one goes. Also, Bogert reports that winger Jaden Nelson, he's been a favorite on this program, just an incredibly bright, personable young man. He would like a move because he stopped playing as much as he had been early in the season towards the end, wants to play more in advance of next year's World Cup. Of course, he's a Canadian international. And then Bogert's saying there is plenty of interest in Sebastian Berhalter and Ali Ahmed, the midfielders, and that they are players to watch because they're heading into the final year of their deals with the Whitecaps. Now, both of them have their options picked up for 2026, and the Whitecaps said we are talking extensions with both players. But if they can't come to terms, the idea is their value on the MLS trade market is huge right now. Everybody saw the contributions that these two players made to the Whitecaps' run to MLS Cup. Berhalter was an all-star, the team MVP, a midfielder for the U.S. national. He even worked his way into and Sean for the U.S. national team. And, of course, Ali Ahmed is a Canadian international who even played through and overcame some injuries this year to have a fantastic year and, of course, scored in the MLS Cup.
It really depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about interest on the MLS trade market, no, not interested. If you're talking about transfer interest into Europe...
Well, he was talking about trade interest in MLS, Tom.
Yeah, I don't believe the Vancouver Whitecaps would trade away either of these players. They've been trying to transfer Ahmed to Europe, but they have to get a decent price for him. And Ali Ahmed now, especially in a post-World Cup world for both of these players, both of these players making their World Cup teams respectively will boost their value immediately. The minute they set foot on a World Cup pitch, their value is going to go up immediately on the international market. I think that's where you're more likely to see them is a transfer.
Okay, so help me out here for a second, though. Ali Ahmed is playing in his own country where he's a starter, an important piece of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian Berhalter is playing in not his home country, his domestic league, MLS, as an American international, and is a huge part of the team. What league in Europe do you go to where you are an important piece of the team that is a better situation for them than playing here for Vancouver?
You go to a lower to middle table team on one of the big leagues. You think about Daniel O'Shea going to Villarreal in Spain.
Okay.
So
that level of club.
That level of club, You could go to a kingpin in a small league, but I think they both might be sort
You're
of
better
past
off
that.
here. Yeah.
They're both kind of past that. But that kind of a transfer where you're getting looks, you're playing Real Madrid maybe a couple times a year, not beating them, but you're playing them. That's the next step for them.
Okay. So like a Villarreal, a Marseille, a Napoli, like that level of club.
Ishmael Kone plays for Sassuolo in Serie A, stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. And the Caps have apparently set a price that is too rich on Andres Cubas. Glass City continues to report this Brazilian side that is very interested in Cubas, but at $4 million US on a transfer fee, that sounds too rich for them. So we'll see.
I think he goes, though. I think he goes somewhere.
Because you think might be a little homesickness there, or at least wants to go back to a more familiar milieu.
Yeah, I don't think it's just about interest from the clubs and the Whitecaps trying to make a buck here. I think there's maybe a little desire from the player to move on. Not because he's had a bad experience here. I think it just might be him wanting to
too bad they didn't lift the trophy. Otherwise, the decks would have been clear here for all of this. Baseball, where yesterday we talked about super agent Scott Boras saying the Blue Jays have risen in the eyes of players because they've built facilities, invested in programs to help baseball players become their best selves. Baseball players love Toronto. File that under things you would not have heard long ago. Well, the Mariners, they're active on that file too. Yesterday, reports that Boras and his client, free agent third baseman Alex Bregman, ex of the Boston Red Sox, ex-Houston Astro, reached out to Seattle about a potential free agent fit. This was a player on those World Series winning / cheating Houston clubs that were, of course, despised in Seattle, as were many of the frontline Stros, in what was a big rivalry for M's fans. I'm not sure it was a rivalry for Houston. So there's not only that, but of course, Seattle has not been amongst the big free agent game hunters in the past. They haven't had the budget for that. So what does it say when a top free agent and his agent reach out to you? Probably says something about your organization's standing in the eyes of players as well.
But I saw the Tigers were bristling at Bregman because it was going to be a $40 million contract.
So Bregman was on the free agent market last year at 31 years old. And most around baseball went, look, that is still a very useful hitter, but he's not what he used to be. And
all-star still, but
are you going to buck up to the level of the Pete Alonsos and some of the huge deals for a guy who, is on the backside of his career?
Yeah.
Look, if you sign him to a long-term deal, you also got questions about where's he playing in the field towards the end of that deal. So he bet on himself with a free agent deal with the Red Sox. He had outs after every year. He exercised that out this year. So he's back trying to get paid again. That they reached out to Seattle tells me that Alex Bregman might be getting the same treatment he got last year on the free agent market, where teams aren't exactly willing to go 4, 5, 6 years on a 31-year-old whose bat has diminished a little bit, and his play in the field will certainly diminish as well.
And he had trouble staying in the lineup this year as well. His plate appearances went way down, went from 155 games, 161, 145 down to 114.
Yeah.
And so his totals are obviously suppressed as a result, his home runs and his RBI.
But this is a professional hitter. This is a guy who knows how to work a count, understands situations, is a good bat-to-ball guy, has some pop.
A 2-year deal?
Well, whether he'll take a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
I think that is the question here. Of course, Jerry DiPoto, M's president, said Tuesday they're going to add another bat. He even said within the next week, someone who can play third base or second base. Bregman would certainly qualify as third base, at least here in the here and now. Atlanta today signs ex-Padres closer Robert Suarez to team with incumbent closer Raisel Iglesias. So they're loading up on short relievers. Our buddy Alex Anthopoulos, GM down there in Atlanta. So that's another high-leverage relief pitcher off the board for Toronto. Pete Fairbanks, the closer in Tampa, Ryan Helsley of the Mets are still out there. The Jays have shown interest in Helsley in the past, and there's also wild rumors at the winter meetings that If the Jays can't land one of these top relievers, they may pivot and just put all their money into hitting. There was even a rumor last night they could sign Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette, which would be, upwards of $500 million of investment.
Yeah, it's only money.
Into their,
it's only money.
It's Edwards' money. Mr. Rogers, we need your money. The biggest domino of CFL free agency fell today. That was quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell. He re-signs in Hamilton for 2 years. He'll be 36 in March, but he was the East Division Most Outstanding Player nominee. He had another great year on his way to the Canadian Football Hall of Fame.
Anything below that, Matt, and I think he retires. I think the fact that his body was able to cooperate with him and he was able to execute told him, keep going.
He's gutted it through, too. There have been times you sit there and you look at Bo Levi and he's fighting through things. There was a little bit of talk that maybe Saskatchewan would be interested in him to replace their 39-year-old quarterback, Trevor Harris, who, of course, just won the Grey Cup last month. But therein lies the problem. I think there wasn't a huge market for Bo Levi, so he chose to resign. Now, remember, everybody, CFL teams with cap space can re-sign their own players before the new year here and apply some of that signing bonus to this year's salary cap. So this is a tool that CFL GMs have used in the past. It's a little different with Canadian players as opposed to American players. American players are taxed a little bit differently. So sometimes, like with Bo Levi, there wouldn't be a huge amount of signing bonus that they could apply this year because he's got a tax interest in all of this. But it does tend to work well for Canadian players. The Lions have a little bit of space here, so don't be surprised if you see a Canadian player like a core special teams player. I'm thinking maybe the kicker from White Rock, Sean White, where you try and get him done this year, apply some of the signing bonus to this year's cap. Should also mention, because I know Sean White is a beloved figure here in football circles from White Rock, longest tenured Lion, if not unbroken tenured, but goes so far back with the club. The Lions did sign global kicker Mark McNamee earlier this offseason. He's an Irishman. He has spent some time with the Green Bay Packers. Blake, he did not play a single snap of NCAA or organized football. He is a Gaelic football goalkeeper with a monster leg that just figured, hey, that American football thing looks like I would be pretty good at it.
Hey, Whitey's a rugby player.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know.
So I think McNamee is the future for the BC Lions, especially with those goalposts going back to the end zone and needing a bigger leg kicker. But in the here and now, I think they would like to re-sign Sean White and perhaps sooner rather than later get him done here in calendar year 2020.
And he's coming off of one of his better years.
I mean, Mr. Automatic.
Yeah.
He just doesn't miss. He may not be your first choice to kick the 52-yarder in the wind with the but, inside of 50, certainly inside of 45 yards, Whitey is amongst the best who has ever done it. Mm-hmm. Results of the poll question from yesterday, Blake. We asked which regime has been worse, Benning or Rutherford/Alvin. The people said
Benning.
Percentage.
70.
Right on the number. Mike, Benning will likely never get beaten in this category, but holy hell, Alvin Rutherford are making it close. Who would have thought it could even be remotely close? Patrick, the guy who drafted Hughes, Pettersson, Demko, Besser is better than the guys who are pissing away their prime. Okay. Terry, good to see Terry in the comments. Puppet regimes don't differentiate to me. Sorry, guys. It's only fair to say it's just been one giant Aquilini regime. He's calling the shots. And our buddy Patrick in Penticton, we see Patrick and his sister anytime we're up at Yellow Dog neighborhood in Penticton. Patrick says, the Aquilini regime is the problem. Yeah, we saw a lot of that. People not distinguishing between the front offices and just looking at it in terms of an ownership regime. I do not have an error or an omission from yesterday. Blake, do you have anything by way of error or omission from yesterday?
Nothing that leaps out. No.
Hearing nothing. Thanks for your time, everybody. Appreciate you spending it and connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. It costs you nothing. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.